Welcome, everyone. My name is Taurus the Legend. Thank you so much for joining us in our second episode of 2024 of the SAP BTP Garage series. Today's mission we're going to be covering is enable end user data entry into SAP Datasphere via SAP Build Apps. Our guest speakers today, my colleagues Martin Plummer, Senior Product Specialist, Padma Priya Kanian, and Sarah Kramer, product managers at SAP. We'll be giving our mission today, again, enable end user data entry into SAP Datasphere via SAP Build Apps. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know of some events and webinars that are currently available. So we have the Ask Me Anything. This is every third Wednesday of every month. Then we have What's New with SAP BTP, a quarterly live series. Finally, we have the SAP BTP Innobytes, which is a monthly video series, and elevate your skills in the SAP BTP Garage, which is the monthly webinar series, first Wednesday of every month. Also, we've got a couple of other sessions, SAP BTP Talk, which is a monthly podcast, and then the Innovations Highlight from BTP Technology Platform. So this is a quarterly blog if you're interested. And then finally, a monthly newsletter for BTP. There's a lot of resources available to you guys. Apart from this, we do have some hands-on and in-person workshops. I won't go through all of these. But suffice it to say, there's definitely something happening in a city near you. I will put this information in the chat as we move forward. Also, some upcoming webinars that we're planning. So we're already on episode 4 on February the 29th, SAP Integration Suite Overview, Recent Innovations and Roadmap. This is part of our 6-episode series, SAP BTP Unveiled, a concise exploration of the latest updates in BTP. Following that, on March the 4th, we have Unleashing the Power of Event-Driven Integration with Advanced Event Mesh. This is in collaboration with our partner Solus. And then on March the 21st, again, in collaboration with our partner NTT Data, how to streamline collaboration and deliver efficiencies with SAP Build Process Automation. And then finally, on April the 10th, we have What's New in SAP Datasphere. A lot of great information, a lot of great webinars upcoming. If you're interested in any of those, I'll put the links in the chat as we move forward. Finally, we do have 2 on-site events that we're currently planning, SAP BTP Champion Days. If you're in the Palo Alto or Miami regions, I will put these links in the chat. Please do join us. This is an on-site event, a 2-day event where we're focusing on generative AI and integration on the first day, and generative AI and DataSphere on the second day. We're planning on bringing this to a city near you as well. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Martin and the team to take us away. Martin?
Actually, I will start with a short intro.
Go ahead.
So I will take over the screen sharing. And I hope you now can all see
We can
the
see
presentation. Perfect.
Yeah.
So let me shortly do my Zoom thing somewhere. Okay. So also, hi and welcome from my side. And thank you, Thomas, for the nice introduction. I'm Sarah Kramer, and I'm part of the BTP. And together with my colleagues, Padma Priya and Martin, I created this Discovery Center mission, enable end user data entry into SAP Datasphere via SAP Build Apps. So this is a Discovery Center mission, which we want to show you today. So what we want to do is, on the one hand, we want to show you the Discovery Center mission and the tool itself, but we will also show you how we solve this problem we have, or like the things we do in this mission live in the system. So you will see DataSphere as well as SAP Build Apps live in a demo. Before we jump into the Discovery Center itself, let me shortly explain you the business scenario on why we are building this Discovery Center mission or this tutorial today. So now I need your imagination. So the business scenario, what we want to solve today is, imagine you have a tank farm which sells different oil and gas to different customers. And within this tank farm, as you can see here, we have a tank farm manager here who always wants to know how much the tanks, we can see here, are filled, because he wants to know how many of the oil can I sell to my customers. And some of those tanks are connected to the tank farm application, and the tank farm manager can easily read them in his applications. But we have some other tanks that are like far away or older tanks where we cannot read the data out of it. So therefore, we have hired a field technician who manually checks the tanks or the fill of the tanks. So you can see this is now 100%, and we need a field technician who then inserts the data into the tank farm application. So this is the business scenario which we solve with DataSphere and SAP Build Apps. So now we have understand the problem. Let's try to understand the solution which we want to show you today. So this is our solution diagram. As you can see, we have again here two users. The business user is the tank farm manager who sees all the data in the dashboard in SAP Analytics Cloud. The field technician is the data entry user, and he uses basically a Build Apps application which is the data entry application. This application is accessible via Build Work Zone, so he uses the Launchpad to get access to this application. Now the interesting part is how this is all connected to DataSphere. And actually DataSphere comes with an SAP HANA Cloud already in there. And because we already have the DataSphere, of course, we want to have our data entry application also stores the data into that HANA Cloud, which is already there. And to solve this, we have a CAP service that sends the data from the data entry application and gets it into the SAP S/4HANA Cloud. And of course, we also need then the connection between SAP Build Apps and our BTP SAP account, and this is done via the destination service. So now we have the data all in our DataSphere, where we have the data which is already there from the other tanks, and we have the tanks now where the data entry user manually gets the data into the SAP S/4HANA Cloud. And what we then do in the last step is we will create a live data connection. So the business user, which is the field manager, can see all the data in his nice Analytics Cloud dashboard. And then he will know how many oil he can sell to the customer. Okay, let's shortly summarize what will be the key learnings of this mission. So we will show the integration between SAP Datasphere and SAP Build Apps. One key part is we will show how you can access the SAP HANA Cloud that is already there in Datasphere, because we want to reuse that. We will show how to build the analytical model in SAP Datasphere. And of course, we create the SAP Analytics Cloud story, so the field manager can see all his data nicely in a dashboard. So that's enough talking for the introduction. Let's have a look how this looks like in Discovery Center. So this is the Discovery Center, and as you can see, there are several missions on SAP Datasphere already there. And the mission we want to show today is the enable data end user data entry into SAP Datasphere via SAP Build Apps. So I already opened it in another tab, so let's jump here into. So this is now the overview page on our Discovery Center mission. And as you can see here, the use case is explained. This is basically what I have explained in the last few minutes. So you understand the background of the business scenario. But what's also important, that this mission will guide you step by step to this tutorial. And this scenario we want to show today is just an example scenario. Of course, you can adapt the scenarios for your productive use and your business use case. Here you can also see the solution, what we have in our solution diagram. And what's also nice is you can see all the services and components that are needed to solve this particular mission, or you can start with this mission. Before I jump into the project board, I just want to make you aware that it's nice that we have the support option in the SAP Discovery Center. So as you can see, you can just write here a question. I have a question. And then we will get notified that you have a question and we will answer them as soon as possible. So in case you are stuck while trying out the mission on your own, there's also the option to directly reach out to us. Cool. So let's jump to the project board. So the project board is basically the home of our tutorial. As you can see, it's split up in 4 phases. We have the discover phase, the setup phase, the development phase, and the complete phase. In each of our phases, we have those little cards in there. So let's jump in to see what those cards are about. So as you can see in the cards, we have some description. So the discovery phase is all about learning the basics behind the different services and tools we are using. So you can see here, in case you haven't used Discovery Center missions before, you get a small introduction, what you can do with Discovery Center missions and what is possible there. So as soon as you are ready, you can go then to the next card. Here we will also again focus on the goal and the outcome of this mission. This is what I showed you in the slides earlier. And then you will also learn the basics of the different products which we want to use. So you can see here we have the business technology platform, which is one central platform which you can use to build end-to-end business processes and build and extend SAP solutions quickly. You will get some links to other resources where you can learn more about BTP. And similar to that, you will also learn something about SAP Datasphere. So you can see that we have Datasphere with different functionalities. As you can see, you have different capabilities, for example, data integration, cataloging, semantic modeling, and data warehousing, and so on. And of course, also here you get links where you can dive deeper into SAP Datasphere. Also, we want to use SAP Build Apps, which is a no-code tool to build business application, which comes with a nice drag and drop UI. So you have a canvas where you can, for example, if you want to show a table, just drag the table into, and then you have it built on your application. But what you can also do in case you don't, or you want to jump between the cards, is you can go back anytime and search for, or go back and search for other cards like this. So I think this is enough for this cover phase for now. So let me shortly jump to the setup phase and explain you the prerequisites that are needed to start with this Discovery Center mission. So as you can see, this Discovery Center mission works with different commercial models of the BTP account. For example, you have the pay-as-you-go, the CPAA, or the subscription-based commercial model. So all of them are okay to start with those missions or with this mission, but you will need different entitlements. And here's the list of the entitlements as well of the plan, which you need or will need for this mission. You can see for most of the services, the free plan will work out. So in case you want to try out, this is a nice opportunity that you can use the free plan for that. And also what you will have in the next cards. So if you want to start, of course, you need to set up the accounts and the different services. And also here you will be guided through the process. So you will need to set up the Build Apps service. And here you can see how you can create a sub-account which has the Build Apps service enabled. Similar to that, you will have a link how you can set up the Business Application Studio, which you will need for the CAP development. And we also have the setup of the SAP Datasphere. So you can just scroll through and you will have some nice little pictures with screenshots that mark the steps you will need to do in order to create your Datasphere instance. Cool. I think that's enough to say for the setup phase. The fun part is now the development part. And I think, Padmapriya, would you like to start explaining and show also the things live in the DataSphere system?
Thanks, Sarah. I will start sharing. Let me know when you see my screen.
I can see.
Yeah, thanks. So let's check the implementation of the scenario. I'll start with the solution diagram from technical perspective. For this scenario, we need a master data table in DataSphere side, which just has the basic data about the tank. For example, the tank ID or maximum capacity or size, something like that. And we use the data in the sub-build apps to know the basic data and to feed the new entries which are made by the field technician back to DataSphere via the CAP service. So the CAP service serves as like it can deploy new entity into the DataSphere. At the same time, it can expose the endpoints to sub-build apps for the consumption. So in the DataSphere side, we have master data as well as the transactional data from the build apps. And we combine these along with a couple of more dimensions to make the analytic model. And this analytic model is used in the SAC for the dashboard creation. So let me move to the DataSphere first. So for this mission, we have provided a couple of files in the mission itself. One is the JSON file, which has the definition of the master data table. And another one is a sample data, which is in the CSV file. So you will be creating a new entity by importing the object from JSON file, which I have done already. So I have a table already created, basic data. And once you have the data, once you have the master data table, you can import the data from CSV file here. So even this file is provided in the mission. So you could go ahead and import, and you will be having a table with some sample data. So we have currently this sample data. The master data table is created. And at the moment in DataSphere, we will be creating 2 more views for this scenario. One is just a graphical view created on top of this master data. It can be consumed in the sub-build apps. And another one is location calculation. It is a SQL view. It can be used in the SAC just to show the map, the location of the tanks. So at the moment, we created 2 more objects with the SQL statement. So one thing I want to mention in the graphical view, which will be used in the CAP service, you should be having the expose for consumption enabled, so that sub-build apps can consume the data from DataSphere. So this is very important. And once you have the master data table ready, you can create a CAP project and you can consume it. For reading purpose, you will be having a technical user created in the setup phase. So when you go to the space management in your space database access, you can create a database technical user. There you need to have enable HT consumption so that your space can access, HD container can access your space data. So this should be enabled. And using this technical user details in the cockpit, you can create a user provided service that is needed for CAP application to consume the DataSphere space data. So now I'm in the CAP application. This is in the business application studio. Even this project is already available in the mission, so you can download and import. This is a CAP application along with HANA modules and MTA deployment options added. So let me check the data model. Yeah. For this scenario, we have a couple of entities. One is tank and another one is tank volume. The tank, the plan is to have the master data from the DataSphere side. So we have the annotation persistence exits so that it will not create a new entity. And another one is it's going to be a new entity. So build apps can feed the data into DataSphere via this new entity. So this HTA container, we need few more configurations, roles. For reading part, you will be having a user provided service with the technical user created in the DataSphere side. So you will be specifying the user provided service and mentioning this is the tank view. I'm going to read it through this user provided service. This is needed. Secondly, as you know, the HTA container has its own schema and DataSphere space is another schema. So it's two different schemas. So to access the objects between the containers, you will be specifying the synonym with the namespace and the entity name, and you are mapping to DataSphere view. This is DataSphere space name, and this is the view name. So these two configurations are needed to read the data from DataSphere, the reading part. So for the reading, you define the entity. The definition should match with the DataSphere master data table definition also. And you have a couple of configurations here. For writing part, you have a new entity you defined, and you must have a consumption role specified. So along with that consumption role, the grant is very important. Why? In the sense, if you give the consumption role, you are giving the option to DataSphere to consume the newly created entity. But with the grant option, even the DataSphere can give the option to SAC to consume the data. So if you want to see data in the SAC side, you must have this grant option. So this is about the DataSphere side. So you have the master data, you are reading it and you're writing back the new entity. What about the build app side? So let's check the service. Here we have simple couple of endpoints which are exposing the entities. And once you build and deploy, you will be seeing the endpoints from the service URL. Before that, I would like to show when you have the imported project from the mission, you need to update a couple of things in MTA file. For example, the user provided service name and a unique name for the HT container and database ID from the DataSphere side. So this needs to be changed. So once you deploy it, you can access the URL and you will be having a couple of endpoints. So when you check the tanks, it gives the basic data, master data from the DataSphere side, the sample data, and tank volume. Yeah, in the CAP application, there is a sample data already available, few entries, so that SAC dashboard can show some bars and charts. So if you check the tank volume, even it displays the sample data from the CAP application. So next step could be like having the build apps to consume these endpoints and write back to DataSphere. For that, I will hand it over to Martin. Yeah.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about, let's get rid of this. 4 sections. They create BTP destinations to enable the communication between SAP Build Apps and the OData service has been created earlier. Then we're going to create an application. We actually provide a template where all the logic and the UI has been developed, and we're just demonstrating the integration via the destination to the OData service. Somewhere in the text there is some description of how the logic and how the UIs have been built, but the primary goal is to show the integration. Then there's the deployment of the finished application to BTP, the HTML5 repository, and you can run it from there. And because this all belongs in the same sort of area, I'm going to go straight to the end and show the finished deployed application running in a work zone site. The idea, of course, is that you can add multiple applications to the site, but for demonstration purposes, we're only doing the integration with the Build app. Okay, so let's just come down a bit. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the destination. So the destinations are set up in the cockpit. It's an administrative task. Here we go. And we have this destination here. In the OData service, for demonstration purposes, we're using basic authentication. So the destination also has to use basic authentication, and the user and password have been defined earlier in the CAP application. The endpoint URL comes from the CAP application, or from the deployed application on the BTP platform. And what is important to note are the properties that are required. So the first 2 properties here, AppGyver enabled and HTML dynamic destination, are necessary to be able to see the destination in the Build Apps development environment. And because we're using an OData, directly consuming an OData service, then we need to also have Web ID usage, OData gen. That's it. It's fairly simple. Once all this has been configured, check the connection. Sure, we've got at least connectivity to the back end. Okay, now we go to the Build Apps part. And what we provide is a template, as I say. So you download the template, simply download it to your local machine. And then in the Build Apps environment, you can import that. While I've already imported it, I can't import again without deleting my existing project. So I've gone ahead and recreated the template here for demonstration purposes. So once you've imported it, you've got essentially the finished UI and the appropriate logics for navigating between pages and for the field bindings and so on and so forth. What we're going to do, and what you do in the mission, is simply enable the authentication. And once you've done that, you've got access to the destinations that have been released for use by Build Apps. So you can see here, no systems integrated. We add the integration. We're going to use a SAP system, and it's this farm tanks destination. So all we have to do is install the integration, and then we need to enable the data entities that we're going to use. So we've got tanks and we've got tank volumes. Enable them both. And now we've got access to the live data from the back end. So there's the tanks data. And this is the data that's going to be used in the application. Okay, so now we can go to the preview. So we're still in the development environment, but now we've got a live application. Open the preview portal and run our application. So let's just quickly take a look at what we can see here. So obviously I've done a test earlier this afternoon just to make sure everything's working. And now we're going to do the manual entry. So I have like 88 for some reason. And we're going with a volume of 77, MBL, I think. And yeah, let's go right to full. There we go. Saved successfully. View volume details. There we are. And when we do that, just for a little bit of fun, we've embedded a map on the page so you know where your location is and where the tank is in relation to your location. Okay, so that's the data integration and the previewing of the running application. Now you want to get that application onto the business technology platform. So we go to launch again, and this time we open the build service. So open build service, and here we can choose to build mobile, web apps, or Android apps. But for this particular mission, we're only doing a web app, and it's very simple. We configure, basically accept all the defaults. Most of the stuff in this particular app is default. So as I say, we're only interested really in the integration aspects. And once you've configured, then you can do a click on build and enter current thing, and we have to provide a version number. Now I'm not going to be able to build because we're in the free version or trial version or something of the build apps, and I've used up all the builds. So I'm just going to go to a different app, the one that I'd uploaded, I'd prepared earlier. And again, launch build apps, open build service. And you can see here that after I've run the build, then we get the built application. We can download it for deployment to somewhere, or we can directly deploy it from within this environment. So we can click on deploy. We choose the endpoint, no, the Cloud Foundry API endpoint, I should say. And then we have to authorize the deployment. So authorize deployment, I choose the deployment, and then I can choose the sub account and the space, and then the deployment will go ahead. And once that's run through, I'm just going to close this. It will deploy to this section, the HTML5 applications, and you can see it here. This one here, I think. Let me just see. Have I got it? 222. Yeah, there we go. So 222 here, and we can see that it's now been deployed and running on the business technology platform. Now, at that point, you now have the ability to add it to a site. So you can, the final part of the mission is to configure. It's no development here, it's all configuration, is to add the application to your site. So we've got the application. We have to create a group because otherwise it won't be visible in the site. And we have to assign it to a role that, in this case, everyone has, so that everyone can see it. And that's about it. You create your site, and you will then have a tile on the site amongst all the other applications and tiles that you might have configured. And from there, we can run our application just as we did before. Yeah, let's just quickly do it again. Enter tank volume, just so that Padma-Priya has definitely got something else in there. Volume, we should see both from the preview and from this some sort of data in the back end. Right. There we go. And with that, I'm finished. Back to you, Padma-Priya.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah. Let me share again. I hope you could see the screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes.
Okay. So now we deployed the CAP application, and even sub-build apps could access the endpoints and feed the data. Again, we are back to DataSphere side. So now you need to consume the HTA container, which is a deployed part of the CAP application. So you go to the space management in your space and database access, you will be seeing the HTA container section. In case if you don't see it, you need to have a scoped space administrator role for this purpose. So in case if this section is missing, make sure that you have the role. And once you have this section, and if you don't have the plus sign to add any HTA container, it means you do not have the mapping between the BTP space and the DataSphere. For that, we have given the instruction, the mission as well. You need to create a ticket with providing BTP space and arc ID along with the DataSphere URL. So the mapping will be done. Once you have the mapping also, then you can add the HTA container, which is deployed part of the CAP application, and you can consume. So add the HTA container, save and deploy. Then you can access in the data builder. So I go to the data builder, I use the space, and I want to import the table, the entity from the deployed HTA container. So for that, I go to the graphical view and I go to the source, and it lists out all the containers. And I open the one which is deployed via CAP application, and you can just drag and drop. It will import that table from the HTA container. So I have already imported, so I can just go to that, which is already available, and which has the sample data which we added from the CAP service. Here, this table has multiple entries for each tank ID, obviously, because the field technician might be reading the data regularly, and this has all the entities, all the details of particular tank. So, but in this scenario, we need only the latest reading of each tank ID. So for that purpose, you will be creating a SQL view, which has only the latest reading. So you will be creating a SQL view to have only latest reading. And this is the type of fact, because it must be fact type to create the analytical model. This is a necessary step for that. And you will be having the volume as a measure, so that in SAC side, you can aggregate using this. And along with that, you need to add a association, so that you can add the location details of tank ID. The SAC story can utilize it to display it in the map. So once you've done these steps, you can deploy, save and deploy, and you can use the create analytic model option here, or otherwise you can use it, you can create the model from the option here as well. So if you open the new analytic model, and yeah, it will be displaying the fact type of view, and you can go ahead and create the analytic model from here as well. So let me open the one which I created. So I already have an analytic model. When you open it, you will be having a latest reading, which is associated with the location details. So now the analytic model is ready. which can be consumed in the SAC side. For that, we need to do a couple of configuration. In the setup part itself, it would have been done, but I'm just saying you need to add the SAC as a trusted origin in DataSphere, and in the SAC side, you need to create a connection. So let me go to the SAC. Yeah. In this exercise, we mainly focused on integration part of these products, SAP Build Apps, DataSphere, and SAC. So I go ahead with the readily available type of dashboard. So I chose the optimized design experience type, and I create simple one-page story, which is the type of map, table, and content, and open it. And just open the data because the live data connection is already established as a part of the setup phase. And I'm going to access the analytic model by accessing the live connection and choosing the space from the data sphere and choosing the analytic model. So once you have the data model added, you can create a table and other chart as well. I'm just going and creating the table. I just add a couple of few columns to add. And similarly, you can add other charts as well along with the page filter. And once you have them, I just refresh so that Martin's entry should be here. We had a couple of entries recently. Martin has done it, so we could see the entries. So in this one-page story, you could have the bar chart to show the comparison of tank readings and distribution of tanks based on the size. And the calculation we used for the location, we created a SQL view out of it. So it is used to show the map here. And this story can be shared via the option of sharing it. And you can create custom link. Either you can use this custom link and directly access the story, or otherwise you can add as a separate tile in the Launchpad using this URL, and you can have from that too. So these are the options to view the dashboard. That's all pretty much from my side. I stop sharing.
Okay. Are you, Sarah? Do you guys have any other slides?
No, that's all from our side actually. So we
Okay.
can now take a few questions if there are some open.
Fantastic. Thanks for the presentation, guys. Great topic. I think Martin and yourself and Padmapriya, you guys have been responding to some of the questions. If you guys have any questions, please do type your question in the chat or do raise your hand in the Zoom tool, and I'll call upon you to unmute your line and you can ask your questions directly to our presenters. We do have 15 minutes left. Please do take advantage of this opportunity to ask your questions directly to our topic experts. Sarah, have we missed any questions in the chat? I think they've been answered. If there's one that...
I hope I tried my best.
Okay. So if there's a question that we haven't answered, please do let us know in the chat.
I think one person raised his hand. I can see.
Yes, Bob, if you want to unmute your line and go ahead and ask your question.
So do we ever record some of these, like how to simplified walkthroughs for the missions themselves to post them out there? Because I know some of my customers would benefit greatly, like they can barely spell BTP. But then having somebody kind of walk them through the mission, it's helpful because otherwise I do it or somebody else would do it.
So like a short demo of
Yeah, kind
of
of
the
that. You
steps.
know,
Yeah.
some of the people haven't, accessed, most of the things that you walk through. So everything
Yeah.
that like you're going through and you're clicking and it's quick, whatever, everything they're touching is brand new information, a different dynamic of what they need to do. And there's a whole series of learning that probably should go on beyond that, that usually doesn't happen. And then we do a bunch of enablement so they can spell another aspect of BTP.
Yeah. So what we have a short demo for our mission out there. And what we also plan to do is to have as many sessions like today, which will be, I think, also online where people can then follow. But in the walkthrough there or in the mission itself, there are screenshots. So it's not like there's a person guiding to, but you can see all the screenshots that are necessary to follow the tutorial.
Will anything like the sessions you had here be available externally that may be linked through via the mission or something along that line?
Ours will this session here will be online somewhere.
Yes.
Externally?
Yes, the session that we just did will be available on YouTube within a day or so.
Can you
So
put
I'll
the
be
link
sending
of where it's going to be on YouTube? Because we have so many YouTube channels at this point.
I can tell you, just give me 1 second.
Yep.
The actual link will be on our main Garage hub. So let me put that here, and then just check back at that link. You should be able to have access to the recording of not only today's session but all past recordings as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great session.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so I see there's one from Kamud. You've Padma Priya, you've answered Kamud's. Sneha, I see that Sneha's question: can SAP Build Apps and DataSphere tenant be in different regions for this integration to work?
Yeah, I just now replied. It should be in the same region. To be more specific, it should be in the same global account. Yeah.
Okay. Janaki, I see your hand. You have your hands raised. If you want to unmute your line and ask your question.
Yeah. So we are using the BTP and including with on-premise system. So can we able to deploy the in on-premise? CAPM application into the on-premise system?
Hemant, can you take it again? Hello.
Yeah.
Do you want Janaki to repeat the question, Padma
Yes,
Priya?
please. Yeah. Yes.
Janaki, if you can repeat your question, because I think your audio is a little far away. We're having a hard time hearing.
I'll repeat again. So we are using SAP BTP including with on-premise system. So can I able to deploy that CAPM application into on-premise system? I mean, can I able to connect the database itself into the bash tool using the on-premise one?
What do you mean by on-premise? In case you're talking about S4 on-premise?
Yes, S4 on.
Yes, you can write extension application on top of S4 on-premise, and you can access the data. There are missions already available in the Discovery Center. How to create extension application on top of on-premise S4 also. It's possible. Yeah.
Okay, by using CAPM application, we can able to without if I need. Yes. Okay. Based on extension, we can able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could do it. Yes.
Great. Thanks for that question. Hemant, I think you had yourself unmuted. You want to ask your question? I don't know if you had a question.
No, Taurus, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, great. If you guys have any questions for the team.
Taurus,
Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Satish.
Yeah, just a quick one. Padmapriya was showing earlier in DataSphere the list of sources. So you can map multiple sources. And typically we would have, say, on-premise for providing the data, or maybe another BTP HANA cloud database providing data, right?
Yeah. In case if you have a connection established in the DataSphere side, you can take the tables imported from the remote also. Yes.
Right. So in that context, I just want to ask the question, what would be the real value offered by any HANA cloud in DataSphere itself?
Yeah. Yes, you know, the DataSphere act as a single source of truth for data when it comes to enterprise or any business data you want to store into one place. Yeah. Here we have the option to give the option to access the HANA underneath the DataSphere, because we always get the query, DataSphere already has a HANA cloud, why we need to have one more database to store our transactional data. So it's mainly for analytical purpose or other activities that DataSphere provides, but still there is a need to access the HANA cloud underneath the DataSphere. So that is the reason, yeah.
Okay, I guess I was asking a reverse question. Why do we need it? So, okay, it's good to know it is there. It's not necessarily that we have to use it, right? I was wondering if there is a technical reason why you must have a HANA cloud database within DataSphere.
To store the data, obviously, yeah.
For
because
persisting models, maybe? Can we look at DataSphere only as a data model layer and not a data layer?
No, it's not only modeling. Even you can have all the functionalities of HANA Cloud, even the machine learning activities. Yeah, you can perform machine learning functionalities. So whatever is available with the HANA Cloud, most of the functionalities you can use it from the DataSphere also. So it gives, yeah, it has a modeling option. It has the option to connect different sources to combine the data.
Yeah, give me 1 minute. I'm on a call. So hold on. I'll drop from that conference call.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Main purpose is to combine the data from different sources. So you might be having S4, you might be having SuccessFactor, Ariba, but you want to have some analysis, you want to have some insights out of those data, you can put together in the DataSphere and you can provide as a one source for the truth. Yeah, that is the main purpose.
Great.
Along with that, it performs governance and other activities too. So you can check the product roadmap for more details too. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Satish, for the question. Sneha, I see you have your hand raised. If you want to ask your question, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I have a question for you, Padmapriya. So we are actually building an SAP Fiori application that currently reads exactly in the same fashion. Just instead of SAP Build Apps, we are using Business Application Studio to build the Fiori app.
Fiori apps.
We are able to read the data from DataSphere through HDI container. Everything is fine, but now we have an additional requirement to again, update the data back to DataSphere. So can this still be achievable using SAP Fiori application in the same fashion?
Yes, it's possible. In this mission, we have given your writing back into the new entity into the DataSphere. So if you follow the mission steps, yeah, you can write back to. That's what I mentioned, a couple of consumption roles you have to provide. And yeah, this is possible. You can check the mission. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Either Build Apps or Fiori, because you might be using the destination the same way as Build Apps, if I understand correctly.
Yes, same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
It's possible. Yes.
Yeah. Thank
you. Great. Thanks for that. If you guys have any additional questions, I don't see any new questions in the chat. If you guys have any additional questions. So I don't see any.
I do. This guy.
Yeah.
Just in general, if the idea is that you want to do reporting from different systems, including S/4HANA, and also you want to add some custom tables. In the old way, we would create Z tables in our ECC, whatever backend system. Now with this paradigm, with DataSphere, getting data from S/4HANA, from other system, is the paradigm that, hey, you know what, let's, as shown here, create those tables in DataSphere and use like a CAP app to kind of fill those tables and have like SAP Build as the UI or Fiori elements. Is that kind of the recommended paradigm?
The recommendation point of view, you can build extensions in the BTP using CAP application. That is a recommendation. But still, it's not only for the CAP application. You can use it with the SAC and other options also available. So mainly, if you use it along with the SAC, you can utilize the full potential of DataSphere as well as SAC. But still, you can use the Fiori elements, Fiori CAP application.
Okay.
I would say along with SAC, you will see more functionalities, more than Fiori,
Okay, great. Thanks for the question. I don't see any new questions. Just one last opportunity. If you guys have any questions before we sign off. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Padma Priya. Thank you, Martin, for a great session.
Thank you.
Hopefully, the team has answered your questions, and maybe popped a few new questions in the process. I have put the team's contact information in the chat, so if you want to reach back out to them directly, or you can reach out to us, the SAP BTP Garage team, and we'll get you in contact with the team today. As I said, the presentation material as well as the recording will be uploaded in the next 24 hours. So stay tuned for that. I'll be sending a follow-up email to you guys right after this call. And with that, please do join us again next month. We'll have another great mission to showcase for you. And until then, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're located. Thank you so much, and talk to you guys next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. It was really nice.